Turns out the best place to get some February updates and conversation and insight on Ohio State is on a big boat in the Caribbean. Welcome to another week on The Beat presented by the Waterworks. It is a Boren Blitz with former Ohio State captain Zach Boren. I am Austin Ward, and you just did the half cruise, Zach, but I'm sure that was enough to get plenty of good vibes about the Buckeyes right now.
I did. It was great to get back around former players, coaches, current guys. There's a number of current guys on the cruise. But let's be honest, it's great to come together to raise money for cancer research, and no better way to do it with a ton of Buckeye family in the middle of the Caribbean. So, yes, I only went for half. They're still doing it up, raising money for cancer research. I had to get home to mama and the kids, but it was awesome. And it gets you really excited for football season again, especially when you're looking at the weather outside and how cold it is. And just start thinking, man, these are the dog days of Ohio. It's great to get around those guys because there's just an excitement around this team already.
Well, at least you came back to the United States, the home of the greatest hockey team in the world, which probably helped as well. So back to football and those pressing concerns. Was there any, when you talk about being around former players, and I think 6, right? Julian Sayin was on the boat. You had Carson Hinsman, Luke Montgomery, Austin Saravell, Bennett Christian, Peyton Pierce, the Texas Tornado, mostly an offensive flavor. But Ryan Day was on the cruise, probably pressing the flesh and talking to a lot of folks. Mark Pantoni. Was there anything interesting that you're allowed to share off the boat that you picked up?
No like earth-shattering news, but this is something that I'll say that I didn't realize about these guys, and the way this era of college football is so different, right? You've got guys making a ton of money, a lot of times more than coaches themselves. It's the closest you can thing you can get to professional athletics, right? And these kids are 18 to 22 years old. What I took away from spending some time with those guys is how mature they are, how much they love the Buckeyes. And the one thing that always I think I had in question, just because the dynamics changed, is they still have such a respect for Ryan Day and the coaching staff, right? Like when you get in the NFL, guys are calling coaches by their first name. Guys are kind of having their own agenda. They can kind of control what they want to do. And coaches can't do anything about it in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of, not that I felt like that, but you always assume that around college football, it's starting to go in that direction. The way those guys handled themselves and the way they talked about the offseason program and, how much love they have for the Buckeyes. Like I was blown away by those guys. And I can guarantee you everyone else on the Buckeye Cruise felt the same exact way about those guys. And so it's refreshing to me to see that even though they're getting paid a boatload of money, they still have those college morals and that college attitude about themselves, where the name on the front of their jersey is way bigger than the name on the back.
Yeah, and I saw when that list was confirmed of which current Buckeyes were going to be on the boat, and you had half of the roster being the center, left guard, and left tackle all returning. I think we had some conversation, and certainly the offensive line came in for some skepticism and criticism after the losses to Indiana and Miami, but to me, and I know that this is maybe making too much out of a thing that doesn't have anything to do with workouts or winning football games, but like this offensive line is going to set the tone for Ohio State. Austin Saravell is already a returning captain. Having Carson Hinsman back for a third season as a starter, Luke Montgomery's influence growing up in the state of Ohio and now having multiple years of starting experience. There's a reason that Ohio State stood pat in the transfer portal. They're banking on improvement coming from all three of those guys, and on and off the field and on and off a cruise boat. Like they are the people that are going to be the face and the tone setters for the Buckeyes this year. That I don't think was any coincidence that they were on the cruise with you, Zach.
And you could tell the relationship that Julian Sayin had with the offensive linemen, and just the way the offensive linemen carried themselves and kind of led that group of guys. Not that Julian Sayin, wasn't outspoken and a leader on the boat, because he was, but you could just tell those guys had some juice about them, right? And I think you hit the nail on the head with those are 3 of the 5 starting offensive linemen. You can just tell the confidence that group has coming back together, having another year of experience under their belt. Those guys want to have a successful season and want this team to lean on them more than ever. Like, those guys see the challenge in front of them. They see what's out there. They know they fell short of expectations this past year from the standpoint of once they, Big Ten championship game in college football playoff. Those guys want it. They're hungry. They're ready. You can tell. They remind me a lot of, now, not as crazy because those guys were crazy, but the offensive line that I played with like Andrew Norwell, Corey Lindsley, Jack Newhort, like Reed Fragel, Marcus Hall, like those 5.
The true slob era.
Yeah, the slob era. You did not want to mess with those guys in a dark alley on the back end, and they knew it, right? And the current guys are a little bit more buttoned up than that crew, I would say. Yeah. But you can just tell they have that same amount of confidence, and they are like, "Hey, listen, lean on us. Like we got it. There's a challenge in front of us, and we want to be able to answer that call."
I thought it was pretty notable the changes that. Forget about the physical development. That's all going to happen. And I don't mean to just totally dismiss it. Julian Sayin made from March to September, from September through December. But it was the way that he handled the pressure, press conference pressure. I'm talking about not Indiana or Miami specifically, because that's a different conversation as well that wasn't meaning to bring up at this point. But like the public facing stuff that comes with being the Ohio State quarterback, I don't know that anyone is ever truly comfortable with it, but Julian Sayin, I could tell as the year went on, he was understanding those reps that he was getting in those scenarios. He was getting more comfortable with it, the attention, the fame, everything else that comes along with, which I think is the most difficult position to play in all of college football, or maybe all of sports, which is being the quarterback at Ohio State. Are you still seeing, Zach, some more steps forward from Julian in that regard? I know that we'll talk about the football stuff on March 10th when they get out there for practice, but just being around, I'm sure everyone on that boat wanted a piece of Julian Sayin.
Yeah, this might be a really bad analogy, but what I will say is it was eye-opening to me that what you saw Julian Sayin this past season from Texas, right, until Michigan, the end of the season. Obviously, everyone wants to have questions about Indiana and Miami, right? But throw that aside. The growth that you saw from him in the maturity that he showed throughout the year, it was almost like the same thing on the boat. And it was I say odd, that's probably not the right word for it, but night one, when everyone got together, former players, current players, and we kind of meet up for the first time, you could tell he was kind of not timid, but shy, right? Like hanging with his dudes, but not wanting to start up conversations with others. By the time I left the boat, which was halfway through the cruise, Julian Sayin's coming up to me, talking to me. He's going up to other former players, talking to them. He's going up to people on the cruise and starting conversations with them. Like, you saw him come out of his shell so quickly over 4 days. And I'm sure it's only going to get more and more as the cruise goes on. But it's very interesting what Julian Sayin did there in a small sample size and what he was able to do this season, that it only tells me what he's going to be able to do this offseason, from where the offseason starts to where it's going to go to once you get August training camp into the first game. Like, his growth is going to be exponential. And I think the more and more he comes out of his shell and he gets around his guys, he communicates, he opens up his mouth, like he's a well-spoken dude. And when he talks, people kind of perk up. I only think his leadership is going to get more and more advanced, more and more crucial for this team as kind of the offseason goes along. But Austin, it was very funny how there was such a similarity from the season to the Buckeye Cruise this week. And there are so many people that obviously wanted a piece of Julian Sayin, and he handled it like a champ. I mean, dude, you're the quarterback for Ohio State and you were a Heisman finalist, right? Like, there are certain guys in the past that did not handle that correctly, and it would get to their head. Julian Sayin was there for the cause. He was having fun. He was talking to people. He was always around. You went to somewhere where there was a lot of social stuff going on for the cruise. Julian was there in the middle of it and having so much fun. And so to me, I love that. Like, we've talked so much on the show about leadership, kind of getting out of your own skin and being a part of the team or being a part of something bigger than yourself. Julian is that kind of guy. So I'm so excited for what the season's going to have in store for him.
Yeah. And I think it reminds me of the way that Ryan Day talked about Julian Sayin in season, that if he made a mistake, it wasn't generally going to happen again. He would learn from it and fix it immediately. And we can look back and say, well, made some of the same mistakes against Indiana and Miami, and it did wind up costing Ohio State. But, that was also the end of year one as a starting quarterback. And now he's got 9 months to address that. Will it happen again? I don't know. But it's also, okay, you gave your first press conference in August, and it wasn't great. What do you learn from that and get better? Well, the next one was more expansive and more insightful about the conversation. Social settings, none of us are going to be overwhelmed the first time you go on that cruise. I only did it one time. It's like, I know all these people and I still don't know what to do. And then, as you said, he took one day and then grew on that the next day. So it does seem to be maybe the extraordinary trait from him is just that adaptability, growth, learning process, that he does that at a faster level than other people. And that's a good trait to have.
I couldn't agree more. And Austin, there were people who miss you on the boat. There were so many people. There were so many people that came up to me and said they love the Austin and Berm show. So, and obviously our show here on the Boren Blitz. So shout out to all those people. There were more than a handful of people. So we need to thank them for the support. But in regards to Julian, again, another thing, you're so spot on. But another thing that I loved about the way I saw him come out of his shell on the cruise and what Ohio State fans need to get excited about is the night of the auction, which was night 3. And, they're auctioning off packages, to Austin for the Texas-Ohio State game, to Indiana for obviously the Ohio State-Indiana game, to USC for the Ohio State-USC game, right? You could tell when the current guys were on the stage and those packages were being auctioned off, how truly excited they were for those challenges. Like they know what's in front of them. They were not cocky. They were not shit talking. They weren't doing any of those things. They told everyone, stood there and said, hey, we know the opportunity we have in front of us, and we are so excited to represent Ohio State in all 3 of those places on the road. And to me, like, that got me jacked up. Like, it's not like those guys were hiding from those challenges. It's not like they're overly confident. They just know what's ahead of them, and they cannot wait to put their jerseys back on to have another crack at some of those teams.
Yeah, well, they won't have to wait much longer till they can put the pads back on in spring, and you can keep your home winter ready, spring ready, summer ready, any weather with the Waterworks and Header Energy Savings Plan. Get priority heating service, members-only savings, and continuous comfort all year long. Call today to schedule. It's the Waterworks and Header, 614-232-2222. And back here on the mainland, Zach, we haven't seen an official press release from Ohio State yet, but I am pretty confident, highly confident, almost 100% confident that the Matt Patricia deal is done, that he will be returning for a second season as the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Had to be the most significant part of this offseason. I mean, know the Arthur Smith acquisition as a new offensive coordinator, walk-around offensive coordinator is a big deal. We talked about that a few weeks ago, but to not have to replace Matt Patricia in addition to 8 starters, that's a huge deal for Ryan Day.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Arthur Smith in the offense coordinator role. Obviously, I think in the offseason, everyone thought that was the biggest decision and biggest thing going into Ohio State's offseason. But I agree with you, Austin. It was retaining Matt Patricia, and I'll tell you why. Ryan Day's an offensive-minded coach. Didn't matter who he was going to bring in as OC. That offense was going to be elite, especially for everyone that they were bringing back. What's most important with bringing Matt Patricia back is not only did he have an elite defense last year and brought a completely different level to the Silver Bullets, you're replacing 8 starters, right? And so those young guys, they need the same terminology. They want the same defense, right? Like, if you were to bring in a new DC and you're replacing 8 starters, all those guys need to start brand new, right over, right? It's like those guys then would be going into year one of their college careers, right? It's a brand new defense. So now they're able to take the knowledge in everything that they learned from watching those older guys, from the snaps that they did get, from the practices that they did get, right? The scrimmages that they did get. And now they're able to play faster. Now they're not able to, now they don't have to think as much. There is such a power of when you come back and you are a first-year starter that you are already so familiar with a concept, with a defense, with whatever it might be, with coaches. And so that's what I think is most crucial. Retaining Matt Patricia, having a lot of these guys in the same system, they're going to hit the ground running come spring ball. Instead of a lot of times when you bring in a new DC or new OC, right, you're learning an entire new system. You are going through the fundamentals of the offense, base offense, base defense, the entire spring ball, and you're really not implementing anything until fall camp. In fall camp, let's be honest, you're getting ready to play football. Like, that learning curve, it isn't as drawn out in fall camp. And so for those guys to be able to come into spring ball, start implementing things right away, the defense coaches are able to see, hey, who's really gripping on this defense and who's really making plays. That's a big deal, man. That's a really big deal.
Zach, are you thinking in year 2, as Matt Patricia is able to, I don't know, get more comfortable is not the word, put his fingerprints more on this defense? And even though he's replacing so many starters that we mentioned, he's also had a chance to do some of the grocery shopping. And you look at a James Smith or a John Walker or a Quay Russaw or a Christian Allegro. It feels like there's at least the possibility that this could continue to look more different, more evolved, more versatile into the future with Matt Patricia. I don't know if you agree with me on that or not, but it feels like that's sort of in the works here, is that there's still more pages in that encyclopedia that Matt Patricia has that he hasn't got to yet.
No, I agree with you. I think during the season you saw a lot of what Matt Patricia wants to do. Now, are there some wrinkles that he probably didn't get to do this past year, mostly because of personnel? 100%. And so, to your point, if he, is doing some of the grocery shopping this offseason and able to get some of the ingredients that he wants to sprinkle in, now you're talking about a brand new ballgame for Matt Patricia. And I think that's what you're going to see. And it's all due to the personnel that they now have at their disposal this year. Some of the older guys, I guess what you're not going to take on the field that have went to the NFL, right? So now you're playing with a new group of dudes that Matt Patricia can sprinkle in 3 down looks, 4 down looks, 5 down looks, like we saw all of those last year. But now he's able to really put some guys in the position that they can be really successful at. And you brought up some names. I think those guys in this defense, man, are going to be next level, and they are going to take their games from where they were, which is already high level, to an elite level. And that's what I'm excited to see.
Yeah, they are into the last couple of weeks of winter workouts over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. 2.5 weeks away as we're waiting for that first practice of spring ball. Can't wait to get into that, and can't wait to continue to pick Zach Boren's brain about everything going on with Ohio State at all times. Glad you're back. Glad you had a great time on the cruise. Sorry we didn't have some better weather waiting for you back in Columbus, but
it's okay, man. It's okay. Football soon. That's all that matters.
Yep, that's right. We're almost there. No live show at Roosters today because Bob, Jay-Z, Nicole still on the cruise as well. So a rare off week for that one, but it'll all be back, and we'll all be ramping up as spring football gets ready to start for the Buckeyes. Thank you, as always, to Zach Boren for joining me with a little Boren Blitz on the Austin and Burnham Show, presented by the Waterworks. I'm Austin. We'll talk to you later.